You're right. It, our clients hire us as agencies because we are experts and we are going to be driving the bus. Too
Mhm.
many agencies, however, do not drive the bus, right? They let their
Oh.
client dictate things and they don't hold boundaries or even just something as simple as offering an opinion or advice or
Mhm.
direction.
Mm.
So the thing is that most of our clients, they are leaders, right? They're business owners themselves. If you were driving down the road in a bus and you looked up and you realized that there was no driver there, I'll ask you this question, John, then what would you do if you saw that you're moving down this is like, you're going 60 miles an hour down the highway in a bus with other people and there's no driver in the seat up front. What would you do?
I am breaking seats and pushing over people to get to that steering wheel as fast as humanly possible.
Damn straight. And guess what our clients do when they realize you as an agency owner are not driving the bus? They're going to start
Yeah.
driving your bus.
Hi, and welcome to the 91 Day Success Podcast. I'm your host, Jonathan Mast, and today we are totally blessed, guys. We have actually got both Mike and AJ with us from Agency Coach. It's very rare we get the opportunity to talk to two amazing entrepreneurs and coaches at the same time. Guys, I'm thrilled to have you with me. As we've been back and forth through some coaching programs for a number of years, but I'm just thrilled to be able to chat with you guys today. For everybody that's listening that maybe isn't as familiar with Agency Coach and Mike and AJ with you guys particularly, start off by telling us a little bit about you and what it is that you guys do.
Awesome. Well, Jonathan, thanks so much for having us. It's been a long time coming. And I'm so glad that we're visiting today. So I started my web design agency. Actually, we didn't call it an agency back then. It was just our web design company back in
Mhm,
2003.
mhm.
And so you figure like what's happening in 2003? YouTube wasn't a thing. Facebook wasn't really around and prevalent yet. I think Google was definitely not the top search engine, but I think it might have been like Alta Vista or Yahoo or something at the time. And I started my agency shortly before graduating from university and I had a choice to make. It's like either move back home with my parents for a period of time after graduating in California or stay here in Tucson, Arizona, where my girlfriend was and my band was. And I'm like, I just need a reason to stay. And so that reason became Anchor Wave, which is the agency that AJ and I still own today. And it's taken us through an amazing journey of like ups and downs. I often say that if I would have known what was going to happen and what was going to take to truly run a business, own an agency, I don't think I would have the guts to actually go through with it because I learned more in the years of operating this business than I possibly did during college and all the years that preceded it. And so we today have a successful agency, which, like I mentioned, AJ and I
Mhm.
still both own, but we don't operate the day to day because our full time focus and attention is in the coaching space and helping people who see the amazing things we've done in our agency, this role model, this template, and help other folks deploy the same lessons and learnings into their agencies and their business. And it's it's been a very fulfilling endeavor for us because we not only get to help other folks, but it helps us understand some of the cool stuff that we've put together. Because I'll tell you what, like I used to think everybody had sales systems and processes and knew how to deal with cranky clients and knew how to hire people and fire people. I thought that everyone just had their own version of it. Turns out that we've actually built something pretty special, and it's been an awesome journey along the way.
Well, that's amazing. That's amazing. I appreciate the share and everything. And as you guys know, and our certainly as our listeners know, a lot of times we ask our guests well towards the end of the podcast about our 91 day challenge. And I want to begin a little bit different today by starting because I think it's going to give us a really good insight and a good conversation as we move forward. So let's jump right into that. And that's really simply as I mentioned real quickly in the pre-call, and guys, I didn't prep AJ and Mike on this, so they got literally about a minute's worth of notice here. I was going to ask this, but if you were advising somebody that was going to start over, which I know sometimes you're doing, and they had the one restriction, they had $1,000 cash to invest in the business, no more. They had to use that and the proceeds that they generate. And they had a goal of over 91 days or 3 months. They wanted to build that to 10 grand in revenue. What type of advice and counsel would you give to that person?
Yeah, 100%. So one of the big things that we've focused on in our agency is helping businesses with their online reviews, review and reputation management. We love it because it's an easy foot in the door, right? You have so many other people that are calling them, asking them to build their website or do SEO or do all these other things that they've become blind to a little bit of that. It's also nice because all business owners understand the power of online reviews. And most of them have tried to do something about it and just not been able to influence that. And so we see that as a great foot in the door. It's been awesome for our agency to go out there and get clients. But the more important thing it does is it helps lead the conversation to what we ultimately want. And something that it took Mike and I about 15 years to really figure this out. But to have a real thriving and successful business, we want to make sure it's based off recurring revenue, right? And a
Yes.
lot of what we teach and a lot of what we focus on is really helping agencies to get away from the high ticket upfront project type work, which guess what? That's great when it comes in, but then it's gone the next month. And we really
Absolutely.
help them focus on building a business where everything that they've got in terms of expenses are covered by the recurring sales that are coming in. And so the reason why I would choose this particular strategy, yes, it's recurring, but I would like to use it as a foot in the door because it does one thing. It gets a very quantifiable result for a client in a short amount of time. We can go out there and engage in review and reputation management with the client. And I literally, at the point they're signing and giving me money, right? Which usually we charge about 3 grand for it. So in the case that you're talking about, I would only need 3 of these sales period to
Yeah.
get close to the number that you're talking about. But more importantly, I would schedule a meeting for 30 days later because at that point, then I'm going to sell them on high ticket recurring revenue. And I'll tell you what, when you're able to talk to somebody that just gave you money 30 days ago and show them the results that they got from something that you did, all of a sudden asking them for a few grand a month or a couple grand a month for a 12-month agreement becomes a whole heck of a lot easier. And so that would be the foundation of my business. I would join, probably use that $1,000 to join some local networking groups, really get my feet on the floor, maybe join a BNI or something, start to talk to people about this because it really would only take 3 or 4 clients over that 91-day period to get the $10,000. But guess what? Probably a lot of recurring revenue stacked on top of that as well.
I love that. That is so good. And I can relate back to an agency that I founded in 2010. We did exactly what you talked about. We started with the project-based stuff. And it was great because you sell a website for 10, 20. I think our
Yeah.
best was just shy of $100,000. That was a great sales day. And as a sales
Yeah.
guy, I love that. The problem was the next day when you didn't have another one to go in, or more importantly, maybe 90 days later when you're like, okay,
Right.
that project's done and paid for, but what are we going to do for the next one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Exactly. Yeah.
go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, that was exactly our same situation, right? So one of the biggest projects that we'd ever sold was for the local casino, right? We were really proud of it because it was like a brand new building. A lot of money had been put into it. And like we were the agency that were hired to do this
Mhm.
amazing project. And so we were high fiving and really just excited about it. And AJ was the one that closed the deal and brought over the finish line. And he's always one that's going to best his best. And well, guess what? There wasn't another casino hanging around anywhere here that we
Mhm.
were going to close the next month,
Mhm.
right? And so we had our accountant do something really important for us at that time, and she ran a revenue by client report for us, just because we wanted to understand, like one, like who are our best clients, and more importantly, where did all that money go from the client that we just sold? And what we found is that casino was not on the top of that list. They barely made the top 20. And the people who were on the top of that list were the monthly payers, right? They
Mhm.
were the orthodontist, right? Who was paying us 1,500, 2 grand a month for the previous 3 years.
Mhm.
It was an attorney who was paying us monthly. It was home service type businesses, right? There was all these businesses who were paying us monthly. And what's cool is while there might not be another casino hanging out there, there's a ton of orthodontists. There's a ton of chiropractors. There's a ton of all these other folks. And suddenly the game became very different for us because creating financial freedom is an equation. Everybody wants to make it complex, right? If you want financial freedom, simply you
Yes.
need to have, in our opinion, monthly recurring revenue that is greater than your expenses. That's it,
Mhm.
right? And so then the question becomes, how do we get more monthly recurring revenue? The thing I always think about, like, Jonathan, have you ever looked at your bank statement and like you looked at the bottom to see how much money you spent in that last month and you're like, how did I spend that much money? Because you're looking at all the items on there and you're like, that can't possibly add up. Right. And then you take your calculator, you start
Every
adding it
month.
up,
Yes.
thinking the bank's wrong or something like that. Yeah, the bank must be wrong, right? But no, you actually did,
Of
right? Like
course.
I think we can all relate to that idea. And it sucks, right? But I think that shows is the power of small numbers can add up very quickly. And when those numbers are actually in your favor, where it's not you spending money, but it's other clients paying you monthly for services, those numbers can add up very quickly, just like they did in an expense column. They could add up very quickly in your revenue column, and that's really powerful. So financial freedom isn't necessarily that far away for most businesses out there, as long as you understand that every sale, everything you're doing, building that recurring revenue. And if we could just set the goal that if you want financial, if it's monthly recurring revenue greater than expenses, then you just need to have a plan to do that day in and day out and celebrate recurring revenue increases every single month.
Well, and I love that, and I love the concept of getting that easy foot in the door that AJ was talking about with the reviews. You're right; it's a great way to get in. Every business wants more reviews. We Most of us don't know how to get them, and again, from experience, I can tell you that having those reviews in our last agency, and again, I stepped away this past summer to start a new agency, wanting to take everything I've learned and do that. But that agency, most of the business that we've gotten over the last 13 years has been because we had more five-star reviews than anybody else in our area. And
Mm,
so when our clients, our prospects would talk to us, it was easy. It's like, well, don't trust us, just look at our reviews.
right.
And they'd go look at our reviews. And even in the old days when we had 20 and our competitors had two, that
Yeah.
was all it took. And then we hit 100 and our competitors had 12. And then we got
Right.
150 and our competitors, even if they got to 50 or 60 at that point, we were still so far ahead. It made that sales conversation much easier because it wasn't about us anymore. It was like, just trust our clients. So
Right.
huge value to bring as an agency to bring into that. Can you tell us a little bit about your review program? I know it's a program you offer. I don't want to give the whole card away, but can you give a little insight into how that review program works and how that helps agencies get their foot in the door?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, 100%. So, like, one of the great parts about it is we used to walk into a room, right? Let's say I go to a networking event, and because we were like the most expensive website builders in town, I would always feel like, man, there's only probably 10% of the people here that I could really talk to and try to sell something because we are just overpriced for
Hmm.
all the other people that were in there. And with review and reputation management, it's a lot smaller investment. So it doesn't require that big of a decision. And because you get that quantifiable result, it's really easy for a business owner to say yes to that. So I suddenly went from this feeling of like, wow, there's only a couple buyers in this entire room to now any business could be my buyer, right? And it's
Mm.
something that I know that they're going to get a result for every single time. And so our system really allows for the agency owner to really not spend a whole ton of time setting this stuff up. It relies a lot on software that's automated that does 90% of the work. So another big benefit is that what happens when you sell a website, right? You're now buried in a whole bunch of work, right? It's like the most
Oh,
resource
yeah.
thing that you could possibly do. And it's like, I go out there and sell a website, and then now you're busy. You go out there, sell another website, now you're building busy. I always say, like, what would happen if a realtor had to build every home that they sold? They probably wouldn't sell many houses, right? And that's what a lot of like single person agencies do. And they wonder why they can't escape this feast and famine mode. And so, what I love, love, love about this review system is that I can probably spend less than an hour setting it up. We charge probably as much as most other agencies are charging for a website. Like some of the guys that are charging 2, 3, 4
Hmm.
grand. And, it only takes me 10, 15 minutes to manage. And so inside of our program, we show you how to do that. We show you how to prospect. We show you how to make a sale. We've got a proposal that just crushes every single time. We show you how to deliver the service in a very small amount of time. And then once you see that and experience it, you know that this is the right thing because, man, I just sold this thing. I got it set up and ready to go. Now I can go sell the next one and not be buried in a whole bunch of work. Right. And so once that process starts to happen over and over again, you start to realize how efficient that is. I mean, honestly, once we realized that we weren't going after the big whales and I wasn't hunting for these casino type websites, and that was probably hurting our agency more than it was helping us, then
Hmm.
then it became clear like who I should be focused on talking to. And honestly, even when people come to us for a website, sometimes I'd be like, if their current website was good enough, I'd want to move them into the digital marketing stuff, even though I know I could probably sell them a website right now. But good enough is good enough, and I can move on to the stuff that's actually going to get them what they want, which is more customer activity, right? I believe every business should have a solid looking website. But at the end of the day, when you build one of those and it's up there, like it's sometimes hard to show them how that really moved the needle on getting them more customers, right? Whereas other digital marketing activity like reviews, like SEO, like pay per click, like Facebook ads actually gets them to what result that they're looking for. And so I think for that reason alone, it's what most agencies should be focusing on anyway.
No, and I love how you guys are focusing on short-term wins with the client too, because that's so important. Every client's been burned, it seems like, or their best friend has been burned if they haven't. And
Yeah.
they're all
Right.
very leery about anything, this marketing stuff, because they don't understand it,
Hmm.
especially once we get into, whether it be the orthodontist or the chiropractor, or the home services. They're very good at what they do, but they don't get the marketing. They don't want to get the marketing. They just want the phone to ring. They want leads to come in. And I love how this system can do that so quickly for them. And
Hmm.
again, then as an agency, help you get your foot in because now you've actually done something probably no other agency's done for them. And that's
Hmm.
it. You've showed them results in the first 30, 60, 90 days, and it's
Right.
measurable and tangible
Hmm.
as opposed to, well, no, the phone rang 30% more. And they're going, no, it didn't. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter whether it did or didn't at that point. If they don't believe it, it's not true. And those reviews are so tangible.
Yes.
It's a great way to do that.
Hmm.
Talk to me a little bit about so you begin working with an agency, and obviously that's a great place to start. But I know you guys do a lot more than just that. Talk to me about some of your other programs, and I'd also love to hear a little bit more about why it's so important to you that you still run an agency, even though you're not in day to day, why that's so important, because I've got my thoughts on it, but I'd love to hear your guys. Why is that so important as you're coaching that you still have that agency? Because that's pretty rare in the industry today. We seem to hear from gurus all the time that owned an agency for 30 days, maybe 60 days, maybe 90. They posed in front of a Lamborghini and, hey, now buy my course. You
Yes.
guys are not like that at all. And I appreciate that about you. But talk to me a little bit about the value of continuing to own and operate that agency as you continue to serve and coach new agencies.
Sure. Yeah. I think I'll tackle that first, then we'll talk about some of the other
That sounds
programs.
good. Yeah.
Yeah. So I chuckle because you say there's these folks out there that are teaching this how to get 1,000 appointments in like 28 minutes. And like, I hadn't ran an agency doing this and now I'll get teach you how to do that. Like that seems to be all over the place. I mean, even inside of
Mhm.
our Facebook group, we had somebody recently that was just like trying to highlight the fact of this great strategy they had. And it's like, when you really look at it, it's like, what's the track record here and what's the longevity here? Because
Yes.
again, if you think back to what's the goal here, it's to create, financial freedom. So that way we can create time freedom, right?
Correct.
Our slogan is own your agency, own your life. Too many agencies are trapped by the very businesses that they've created, trading their time for money. They started it for freedom, but they actually have worse than a job, right? It's like all the downsides of a job and all the downsides of a business. And we call that entrepreneurship. It's like, hey, that is not the way it's supposed to be. Business is a game we not only get to play, but we also get to design. And the
Mhm.
hardest days I've had are the days I forget that I'm actually in control of how my business runs. And so speaking of our agency, we look at that as it's the proving grounds, right? It's the laboratory. It's also the best case study I could possibly offer up as to what we do work, right? That agency runs day to day without our involvement. We have an amazing leadership team. Lily Darling, our CEO, and Jill King, president of Anchor Wave, lead that team. And our involvement throughout the course of the year is 2, 3 times a year of strategic planning. Coming up on Monday, we'll go to a retreat that's put on by the agency, and we're going to go ride horses with them, right? Like at a local dude ranch,
Oh.
and that's the important work that we get to benefit from having that agency. And we worked with Garrett White, building him
Mhm.
a website, or as we call it, a funnel hub. And one of the things that stood out to us and working with Garrett is what he said about himself is he's like, I want to be the case study. I want to be the person that somebody points to and says, I want a life like that. I want a marriage like that. I want a business like that. It really stood out to us because we're like, that's what we want to be. We want to be able to point to this business and not say, hey, it worked once. And then we'd stop doing it. Now I'm making more money doing it, selling you the solution, right? We're at the point right now, like our agency still makes more than our coaching business, right? And I think that we're on the pathway and the trajectory for that to flip flop at some point, no doubt.
Mhm.
But that business continues to serve as a place where we can test the things that we're trying, but also study it like somebody would in the laboratory setting, right? Like we've had the time now to actually look from the outside of our business because we're not so caught in the day to day that we say, well, why did that work? Right?
Mhm.
Why did this sales process work? Why did we never have a problem with leads? Why are we closing more than our competitors? Why Are we still the most expensive? Like my favorite thing. Hey, Mike, you guys, I got to tell you, we're the most expensive by far, but we're still hiring you guys because nobody did what you guys did. And it's clear
I
you guys,
love that.
that, that is what they're telling you is you didn't leave any money on the table and you've got a client for life and you trust them. Like those, like, why was that happening for us?
Over and
Right.
over.
Meanwhile, like we had a friend in during the pandemic that owns another local agency, and they reached out and was like, they're real somber. They're like, how's things going, guys? Like, is everything okay? Like, are you guys doing all right? Like, oh man, things are crazy, right? Everyone's canceling. We're like, dude, no, things are
Hmm.
great. Like, what's going on with you? Like, can we help? Like, because we're seeing the opposite, right? So, like, the benefit of having that is that we are in touch with the current events of what's happening. I certainly believe that there are tried and true timeless principles in sales, in marketing, and things that are important to know. And maybe some of the coaches out there can connect with that idea and be able to teach good, solid principles around that. That's cool. Good for them. But I think the layer on top of that is the connection to, okay, but does it work now? And
Yeah,
because sometimes, like Jonathan, you probably know this better than most, is like sometimes, like, you know that it works, but we just need to show the person that it worked recently or that it worked
correct.
just like them, right? It's all in the power of belief. And I think that's what we offer not only for ourselves in this business, but the folks that come through our programs.
Yeah, I think
No, I
there's a
love.
certain level of integrity that also comes with that, right? Like I can tell you that if Mike and I were teaching the exact marketing campaigns and strategies we were using 10, 15 years ago, they wouldn't work today, right? Like there's just
Hmm.
certain things that have
Hmm.
changed. And so we want to make sure that we're teaching people that they can apply today. We're giving them actual tactical strategies, right? Like we've been part of so many masterminds and coaching programs and courses where it's all very theoretical, right? Because they're speaking to such a broad audience of entrepreneurs or business owners. Like one of the things we pride ourselves in is that we've taken all this theoretical knowledge and figured out how to actually apply it to an agency so that by the time it gets to our students, it's plug and play, right? It's rubber stamp. They could actually use it rather than just trying to figure out how the heck to get it to work.
Well, and again, I think it just brings so much value to the table as an agency owner. To me, if I'm going to hire a coach, I want to hire someone like you guys that is still in the business where you can
Mhm.
validate because things do change. The things that we were doing in 2020 aren't the same things we're doing today. They're
Right.
similar, but they've been modified, they've evolved, they've changed. And that's so important to be able to make sure we can provide the best possible service to our clients. So,
100.
Mike, you mentioned funnel hubs, and that's a term that I believe you guys came up with. It's very different than the normal website. For those of our listeners that are listening today and going, "What is a funnel hub?" Can you help me understand why you call your websites funnel hubs and what that means significantly to your clients?
Yeah. I think maybe a good place to start is telling a story about us sitting at Funnel Hacking Live. This is probably 2017, 18, maybe somewhere in there. Russell Brunson standing on the stage and he's premiering a commercial talking about the death of a website. And he's telling
I
everybody in the
remember.
audience, hey, you need to tweet out that websites are dead. And like our whole team is at Funnel Hacking Live, literally just sold websites in the days preceding that event. And I'm like, in case it's unclear to you guys, do not tweet that out because we can't be telling our clients that the thing we just sold them is dead.
Mhm.
We still laugh about that.
Mhm.
And so it's for those that don't know us, we've been involved in Russell's world since about 2015, back before ClickFunnels was really a household name. And we were flying to Boise, Idaho in the back rooms of the Boise Convention Center, talking to other marketing nerds who were just talking about funnels. And before it was like a cool thing to do. And before everyone was wearing t-shirts with little slogans on them and such. And I share that because we had an insight back then that really changed things for us. And that we used to, the day that we actually showed up for our first mastermind in Boise, we got there a little bit too early. We were like really like the nervous kids in class, like figuring out who we're going to meet and all that stuff. And the night before, they had set up all the cards, and on the cards on the table was everybody's name. So I think we did what a lot of people with access to the internet and curiosity would have, which is we started Googling people's names. And what we
Absolutely.
found there's like people who like we couldn't find them. They have no footprint, or they like we come to find out they offered something different than what we found, or we found their like high ticket service, but we didn't know what their entry points were. It was like a mess. And the reason why it was such a mess with these folks in this room, these people who were like the top of the funnel game at the time, especially like household names that you guys all follow on TikTok and Instagram now and copy their captions for your shorts and reels and stuff. Those are the people we were hanging out with. And, but how could they be such a mess online? And the reason why is Russell and that community especially was so focused on funnels that they forgot that webs just because a funnel is the number one place to convert a lead or prospect into a buyer doesn't mean that a website is not part of the journey, right?
Exactly.
And it's all about helping someone overcome the trust tipping point. We're sitting in a webinar and I'm about to give you my credit card and I put it back in my wallet. What am I going to do? I'm going to look for you online. I'm going to try and figure out who you are. I'm trying to establish credibility and trust. And so when we took this idea to Russell and say, listen, here's what a website actually needs to be and how it plays in the role, we knew we couldn't tell the guy who murdered websites he needed a website. So, I mean, we just called it a funnel hub. So, but the funnel, just because funnel hub is a very specific content strategy, it's like what exists on this website to get someone over that trust tipping point and back into the funnel. The job of the funnel hub, the number one job is to accept that curiosity and that person who's skeptical, overcome that down skepticism and get them back into the funnel, right? Where the sale can happen. Too many websites are built today that are like a choose your own adventure. Like they don't lead anywhere. And, and so we sat down with Russell and the day we were just trying to vet the idea with him. We're like, listen, we got this idea. What do you think? Like, we're nervous as all hell. Like, cause we thought he's going to kick us out of the inner circle. He's like, hey,
Sure.
you know, what do you mean websites? Get out of here. What are you talking about? WordPress, get out of here. No, he wasn't like that at all. 3 slides in to like just explain it to him. He's like, I have no idea where you guys are going with this, but I already want to give you money. And like AJ's kicking me under the table. We're like, oh my gosh,
Shut
can you
up.
believe this thing? By the end of like a 20-minute call, he's like, I want one. You take Visa, Master, credit card. And we closed him on a very nice size project right there. That was not our intention. And so that's what kicked off we were secret number 17 in Traffic Secrets. Open it up. You'll find our story in there. We've spoken on stage at Funnel Hacking Live 4 different times, sharing these ideas. We've had the opportunity to partner with Russell in bringing these ideas into ClickFunnels 2.0. So that way building a funnel hub in there. So it's been very cool. And it's been a big part of the conversations around our community because like websites are not dead, guys, at all by any stretch of the imagination. But the old ass website that you're building that just doing nothing, like that one is dead. And so this is the right approach. And what's cool about it, so the kind of talking back to the agencies who are listening right now, have you ever had those like clients who are like hard to deal with? And they're like, you're building a website and it's like, they can't make up their mind about stuff. You can't get content. Well, the reason why is because you're not being prescriptive. Right? The more you are, say, hey, listen, this is the way we do it. Here's why we do it this way. When you sell them a funnel hub, you're selling them a prescription of here's the strategy, what we're going to do. And it takes away a lot of the back and forth and a lot of the stuff that's hard as an agency or a web designer to deliver. So like, I know that was like a lot in like a short amount of time. So like, yeah,
No, that's amazing. And I've always loved the concept. When I first heard you guys talking about it, Funnel Hack Live was when I got introduced to it. And I love the concept because I'm a marketer by nature. So when I got into the web design business, it wasn't as a developer or as a designer, it was as a marketer. So going, I need to be able to use this because it establishes credibility.
Yeah.
And most recently in my life, I've learned that through the authority that we gain and the things that we do to be seen as that go-to expert, it's really the same concept to me. When people, whatever that hook is, whether it's an advertisement, whether it's a referral, wherever they come in, they're likely, like you said, they're going to come into a funnel. And that's great. We want them to come into a funnel because we want them to buy something. Maybe it's just our free lead magnet, but we still want them to make that commitment. And the website though, and I love how you guys call it a funnel hub because it really is, it's at that core, that center of all of your funnels, because
100%.
it then establishes that credibility that so many of us know. I've been there, just like you said, Mike. My credit card's out. I'm just about ready to enter. And I'm like, who's AJ? Before I give this, I just want to do a little bit of research just to make sure.
Yeah.
And if there isn't anything there, and I remember you guys talking about that some of these people, there wasn't, that hurts sales. And so by having that funnel hub in place and giving that validation in one spot that people can go to now have that information, it's so valuable. And I think it's candidly a missing link that so many people look at in the marketing game because they go, wow, the website's, it's like Russell said, it's passe. We don't need it. We maybe don't need a website, but we do absolutely need a funnel hub. 110%. I love the way you guys have done that and the way you've brought that together. I remember actually thinking about it when I heard it going, darn, I wish I'd had that idea. Great concept. Talk to me a little bit about what that looks like for your clients. Mike, you were talking about being prescriptive to the clients, and I think you're headed down a path I'd like to pursue, which is you're the expert when your clients begin working with you, and they're working with you because you're the expert. And that means that you need to be driving that bus, not them. It doesn't mean you're not respectful, you're not caring, but you know what works and what doesn't work. And they've hired you because of that. One, am I right on the path that you're headed down? Am I right or am I wrong on that? And if I am
Yeah.
right, can you expand on that a little bit?
I'm going to let AJ take this in a second, but I want to say one thing about the bus thing that you said, because I think this sets it up perfectly.
Please.
You're right. It, our clients hire us as agencies because we are experts and we are going to be driving the bus. Too
Mhm.
many agencies, however, do not drive the bus, right? They let their
Oh.
client dictate things and they don't hold boundaries or even just something as simple as offering an opinion or advice or
Mhm.
direction.
Mm.
So the thing is that most of our clients, they are leaders, right? They're business owners themselves. If you were driving down the road in a bus and you looked up and you realized that there was no driver there, I'll ask you this question, John, then what would you do if you saw that you're moving down this is like, you're going 60 miles an hour down the highway in a bus with other people and there's no driver in the seat up front. What would you do?
I am breaking seats and pushing over people to get to that steering wheel as fast as humanly possible.
Damn straight. And guess what our clients do when they realize you as an agency owner are not driving the bus? They're going to start driving your bus, right?
Oh, that's an amazing analogy.
And so you have to realize that when you're working with clients, you need to be a driver. You need to move things along. And so this translates perfect into being prescriptive. And so I'll turn over to AJ to talk about like in what ways are we prescriptive and maybe in what ways are we sometimes giving our clients too many choices and options where they feel like they need to be that driver.
Yeah, that's
Mm,
just
so
it. I
good.
mean, the thing you got to consider if you're really leveraging the funnel hub as that credibility indicator and trying to build that trust is that whatever process the prospect just went through wasn't enough to build enough trust where it was just a no brainer to say yes. Right. And so now what are they doing? They're turning into a detective. They're trying to figure out, like, okay, well, that didn't really do it for me. I feel good, but like, I'm feeling some red flags. I'm going to go look online and see what's going on there. And so when they get to your funnel hub, it needs to help them feel like you're capable of doing the work that they want you to do. Right. And so when Mike and I were thinking through how we can persuade people or how we can like present ourselves in a way that helps push people over the finish line, we didn't have to look very far. Like, I happen to think that Expert Secrets, which is Russell's second book,
Hmm.
is probably one of the best books in the world on how to present yourself as an attractive character, about how to build a mass movement and how to get people on board either by attracting them to who you are or pushing them away, right? Which is
Exactly.
good too, right? Like, you just want to attract the right people. And so we really dissected that book. Like, think about what happens normally on an about us page on a website, right? You're like, cool, what do you want on your about us page? And the client's going to start telling you, like, well, I went to school here and I did this, I did that. And it's like, well, no. And imagine going to them instead and being like, hey, here's what's going to go on the about us page, right? We're going to present you as an attractive character, right? Or a charismatic leader. I want to
Mm,
know about your hero's journey, right? I want to do like a us versus them where we could throw rocks at all the things your competitors are doing wrong and what you're doing right, right? These are all different things that Russell spoke about in that book. And I think people even reading that book maybe answered some of those questions and did some of those exercises, but then guess what they do with it? Sitting on a Google Drive somewhere where nobody can
exactly.
see it, right? Like, all we did was put it now in a spot where people could see it and be influenced by it and understand who they were, what they were about, what services they offered, what results they get. And when you're able to put all those things together, it doesn't matter which one of those was missing during your sales process. They just want to get in there, check off the box. Okay, cool. I just read this case study. It sounds like somebody is exactly like me. Or I just read his R movement page. And you know what? That's something that I stand for as well. I feel like there's this relationship that's being built there. And so that's really what the funnel hub is all about, is that there's so many of these funnel builders that have amazing stories and they've done some really cool stuff and they're trying to change the world and they stand for something great. And the problem is that they're not giving anybody a way to get to that without them accidentally seeing your ad on Facebook and then going into your webinar. And then that's where the story's told. But like, what if I never got there? What if I didn't choose to register for the webinar or any of those things? Like, we still need a spot where that whole thing needs to live. And that's what the funnel hub is really about. And so that
Mm,
prescriptiveness is what makes it easier because you're saying, look, these are the things based off of this book and all the principles that we know are good there. And you can push back a little bit when they want to add something different or shift that. It's like, this is the right recipe, right? And you can hold your ground there, which makes the whole process a lot easier because our wireframes are pretty much already created. We're just filling in their story in the gaps.
Well, and I love that. And I love the way you guys have described that. It is so incredibly important that we do that. And you're right. If we don't lead, that means the customer is going to feel they need to, and they need to get involved. And I love, AJ, what you were talking about there, that whole, that hero's journey, the transformation story,
Mhm.
and being able to put that on the about page because, well, not everybody's going to read it. You want to make sure the people that do read it resonate with it if they're going to be a good prospect. And
Mhm.
at the same point, if they're not going to be a good prospect, and we've all had prospects
Yeah.
that, oh boy, I don't know if I should take this deal, but I want the money and it's going to be a good deal and it'll all work out. And then we found out later that was the biggest headache we bought that we just wish we could have pushed off to the side because it would have been so much better. I think we've
Mhm.
all been there as agencies and experienced that. Just,
Right.
man, just so much gold there, guys. Thank you so much
Well,
for sharing
tying
it.
tying it back to something we talked about earlier,
Yeah.
recurring revenue. Well, when you have a ton of recurring revenue, you can say no to the projects
Mm,
that are not a good fit. We call them snowflake projects. So you can
yes.
say no to the snowflake projects that aren't a good fit, that are going to take too much of your time, that are going to be a pain in the butt clients. When you have enough recurring revenue, the agencies get in this trap of taking on bad projects because there's money in hand. I mean, I've been there. I've been there. We've
Oh,
all
yeah.
been there. It's
We
like,
all have been. Yes.
Mhm.
they're about to sign the contract and let's just, I got it. I got this.
Mhm.
Agencies are among the most resourceful people on the planet. We know how to figure stuff out. And that is a huge strength. However, sometimes a strength overused becomes a weakness. And that's a big one right there.
I resemble that comment on occasion, so I can
Mhm.
totally
Me too.
appreciate where you're coming from. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, help me understand. So, if you guys are talking about some amazing things here, and I can't imagine an agency listening to this and going, I don't want to learn more about this. If they want to, I know you guys have a lot of programs. We could talk for hours and we'd love to do some more. But as agencies listen to this and go, man, this is really resonating with me. And I want to understand how can you help those agencies walk down this path and talk to me a little bit about what they can expect if they reach out and start working with you guys. What's that look like from an agency's perspective? If I say, okay, guys, I'm ready. I want to do the reviews and I want to do that. And I want you to teach me this funnel hub stuff. What does that process look like to an agency? Where do they get started?
Cool. Well, first, I'll just make it real easy. If you head over to agencycoach.com/91-day success, we've got a couple links out there for you. But to answer your question directly, Jonathan, so there's a saying we have around agency coach. It comes up often in our internal team meetings. We are agency coach. We are not agency course, right?
Ah,
And if we were just a business that like we're flinging trainings and courses and those kind of things, and that's what we did, then we should have named ourselves Agency Course. But like we really live by the identity of coaches because let's just face it, there's a lot of information out there.
oh yeah.
Everything that we teach and everything all of the other agency coaches teach is available. It's there for free on the internet and you can sift through it. And there's some people doing some amazing stuff you can go find there. The thing that's missing is, okay, well, how does it apply to you? And then more importantly, once you know it, how do we get you to take the action even though like you're not? And it's all comes down to
Mm,
belief, right? I just posted a video on this recently. There are consultants and there are coaches. Consultants are good at just implementation of tactics and strategies, right? You hire a consultant because they just come in and they're good and execute and do all of the tactics, right? A coach comes in and helps the business owner not only do those things, but understand why they're not doing those and what's going to prevent them from doing it. If you think about a coach from a sports team,
hmm.
right? Like these athletes are excellent and like Olympic gold medalist level, amazing championships, right? But they still need that coach to help them see what they don't see and move around them. So I will say that no matter if someone comes into one of our programs just teaching about reviews or anything else, like it's wrapped in coaching and that's why we can tailor a lot of our quote unquote curriculum for the specific need that they want. So folks who are ready for coaching and want to coach in their corner and be able to come in for like daily drop-in calls in specific areas and want to work through the issues, but also be held accountable
Mhm.
to those things. Sometimes somebody comes into a program, they know all the stuff. and they already believe they should do it. The only thing that's missing is accountability, right? So maybe that's why
Yes.
they come in. And so again, like, so if we'll put this up on the page, if somebody's interested in coaching, we could have a conversation about that and see if that makes sense. If you're on maybe on the beginning side, maybe you are that person like, I have 91 days to do this one particular thing and I got to get to this goal. Like, reviews is an awesome place to start. So our program, Review Pro Launchpad, is actually how we got into the coaching space to begin with. And it's been one of our most successful programs of getting folks from zero to a beautiful business in a short amount of time. And that's also a great place to start. So reviews is a great spot, but also some of the agencies who've been around for a minute and they're like, I need the coaching and I need the accountability. Some of our other programs are that, but we also have lots of amazing other things.
Yeah. We've got a big bag of tricks, right? We've done this for so long that there's different strategies that we can pull out. And some of them are in courses and we can give people links and things like that. But others are just like, cool, I'll go dig that out of my drive and give it to you. Right.
Hmm.
So that's where the coaching can come into play. So we really have entry level stuff, mid level stuff, more advanced stuff, depending on where you're at with your agency. I'm sure that we've got something that can help you get to that next step because I'll tell you what, Mike and I are trying to create what we wish that we had. So it wouldn't have taken us as long to figure all this stuff out if we had anybody out there was giving us the shortcut. And we just want to make sure that agencies have the support they need to go a lot quicker than we did.
Well, and I think that accountability piece is so important as agency owners. Oftentimes it's, I don't want to say it is lonely, but sometimes it feels lonely because we're only
Yeah.
really accountable to ourselves.
Right.
And it reminds me of something I said about a coach that I had many years ago when I was first getting started in the agency business. And I used to, in fact, the testimonial I gave him is that he never taught me anything new, but
Right.
he helped me implement what I
Yep.
already was aware of that I was just waiting till tomorrow to do.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
there's
That's just
so
it.
much value in that. And now again, I have no doubt I could learn a lot from you guys. I'm not saying that agencies can't, but even in that case, when I worked with that original coach that I had, there was so much value just in that accountability alone to
Right.
go, okay, Jonathan, you committed you were going to do this month.
Yep.
It's done.
Exactly.
And that accountability was so incredibly important in helping us grow our agency at the time. And it's still important today as I have coaches and work with people like you guys and others. That is so important to have that accountability in there because again, as agency owners, as entrepreneurs, a lot of times we don't have anybody to hold us accountable. And we need that person that can call us and tap us on the shoulder and go, hey, you said you were going to get this done. Where are you
Mhm.
at?
Yeah.
That's super,
We had
super.
somebody in our mastermind group just recently that was telling me that he came from like a corporate background, had worked in business for 30 years. And one of the things that always was like easy to keep him going was just the weekly sales call that he had to be on.
Hmm.
And knowing that he had to go talk to people about the work that he had done and what he was focused on and whether he did his stuff. And after doing our group, he's like, this was that missing piece that I needed, not to have a boss, right? But at least to have some structured environment. Because I'll tell you what, sometimes people are a lot more willing to let themselves down than their commitment to somebody else, right? And that
Absolutely.
might just be all that you need. You're right. Sometimes we need to be reminded we don't need to learn new stuff. And that accountability piece has really paid off for us.
Well, and I'm going to date myself here, but I know I've said for years if Michael Jordan and Tiger Woods needed coaches to help them, two
Yeah.
of the best in their field, and they still had coaches to help
Yep.
them. If
Yep.
they need coaches, no matter where I'm at in my agency journey or my entrepreneurial journey, I need coaches too.
Yeah.
Because I think AJ, you'd mentioned this. Sometimes it's just a matter of shortcutting my way to success because you've already experienced, or somebody else in that mastermind has experienced and tried what I'm about ready to do, and
Right.
they've stubbed their toe, they've bloodied their nose, they found out the way not to do it, and that
Yep.
can save me time, energy, and money in making sure that my success comes that much faster. So, yeah, I
Yeah.
love that. I love
We
that.
we
That's
we failed a
fantastic.
lot of times so that you guys don't have to. That's for sure.
Nothing wrong with that. I think we all do, and I think that fits into the if you're not failing occasionally, you're not trying hard enough. This is not about a safety net, but it's about making things go forward. Mike, you mentioned to reach out on the website. We'll go ahead and put that link in here and make sure that's available to everyone. Are there any other ways to connect? I know you guys have so much content that's out there between the Facebook groups and the videos and all that. Are there any other ways you recommend if, again, people maybe go, man, this is interesting. AJ, I am curious. Where do they learn more about you other than just on the website? Or is that the best place to start?
That's a great place to start, but if Facebook's your thing, come hang out in our Facebook group. I think we got an easy link for that, groupforagencies.com, I think.
We'll put it down in the show notes. Not a
Yeah,
problem.
so you can come hang out with us there. There's a lot of great discussion happening there, but also I'd love to connect with anybody listening on Instagram. Like I manage my Instagram. I still like hold on to that and love having conversations. But even if you don't want to chat me up there, just follow me, Mr. Mike Schmidt. We'll get you some good stuff over there for sure.
All right. And Mike, if I don't want to talk to you, but I want to talk to you, AJ, where's the best spot to find AJ?
Instagram's a good spot too. Ant1832 is my name on there. Kind of
Awesome.
name,
I love it. No, that's great. It's easy to remember. It's easy to remember. Well, as we get ready to wind things down here, I'd love you guys any words of wisdom to that agency owner that's listened. This conversation has resonated with them, and they're like, okay, there are things I can be doing to improve my agency to get to that lifestyle that I dreamed of when I began the agency, before it turned into a rat race, before it turned into a job. What recommendations, if anything, do you have for them as we bring this plane in for a landing?
Yeah. I think we could probably each bring a different angle on that. I'd say for me, if you feel like you're chasing your tail right now, even just recognizing that is a huge win, right? And being aware that you
Hmm.
want life to be different and you want business to be different. I think I said this earlier that business is a game we not only get to play, but we get to design it. And the days where I've been struggled the most are the days I forgot that I'm actually in control of changing the way the game is played.
Mm.
And if that idea alone can give, I think, give the right agency owner the power to make a change. And if we could be a part of that change, cool. If our free content could be a part of that, cool. If you've got another way you're going to do that, cool. But just don't stay stuck thinking that you have no control over that.
Great advice. Great advice. AJ?
Yeah. I think what I would say is like, I would encourage every single person that owns a business or owns an agency to get back in touch with that feeling that you had when you were starting it, right? And why
Mm,
you did it and what you wanted. We talk about time and financial freedom because I think that's what a lot of people wanted, right? They said, I'm going to start my own business. I want to
absolutely.
make my own hours and I want to take Fridays off. And I want to have long weekends or I want to, take time off whenever I want. But then ask yourself if you're really living that today or if you're at least making progress towards that. Because if you're not, then I would encourage you to get a little bit of help. We've figured that out. We figured out how to do it for ourselves. We've got an agency that can run 100% with us. And that might not be what you want today. But guess what? Like being able to take time off when you want to is awesome, right? Like you're not having to do the work, but wanting to do the work are two different things too, right? And if you have a business that could run without you, you're in a lot more control of how you want to contribute your time to your business and really just do the things that you think are fun and going to bring joy to your life rather than things that are dragging you down.
Great advice. Great advice, guys. Well, I want to encourage you. I started working with Mike and AJ in my first training course, which was actually a review course and coaching probably 5 years ago, somewhere in there. And you guys have been a great resource along the way. And I'm so grateful for that. Thankful for you guys joining us today. Want to thank you as well. If you're stuck with us through the podcast, we so appreciate your attention. And don't forget, we love your feedback and your reviews. So if you like the podcast, go ahead and leave us a review. We'd be grateful for that. And I want to encourage you, if you're an agency owner and anything's resonated, again, reach out, talk to Mike and AJ, and find out what they and their team can do to help coach you to that next level of success. With that, make it a great day, everybody. And thanks
Thanks,
again.
Jonathan.
Thanks, Jonathan.